Hello. In this video, we're going to dig more into solutions. So we're going to talk more about solutions to a system of linear equations. Okay, so it says determine if the ordered pair is a solution to the system of equations by checking to see if the point satisfies both equations. You can also use your calculator or a spreadsheet. Well, we'll deal more with the calculator spreadsheet stuff in class, so that doesn't need to be done now, but remember that you could also plug in points and actually find out what both are. So what we have two equations, right? So I would consider this as the line y1, and I would consider this as the line y2. So that just means your first line and your second line. It has nothing to do with the names of your points. Okay, so they give us a point here. If you didn't notice that that's a point that they give us, and they're telling us that they're asking us if 5, 2, so the point 5, 2 is a solution to the system. Well, normally if we had a graph here, we could actually graph it and find out if it's a solution. But in this case, we don't have a graph. So in order to find out if it's a solution, we have to use our checking method, right? So we're going to check by substitution, which we've been doing all year. So this is nothing new. Let me spell it right, substitution. Okay, so we've been doing this all year, so let's just continue more of it. I want to know if the point 5, 2 is a solution to both the first line and the second line, so line 1 and line 2. And maybe we should call these L1 and L2 instead of Y1 and Y2 so that you guys don't get confused. So I'm going to call that L1 and L2, and in this case L1 and L2. Well, this will be the L2. So these are the Y's for L1 and L2. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and find out if this is a solution by checking, and then we'll fill out our graph later so that we can actually see what's going on here. Okay, so the point 5, 2, that means that x is 5 and y is 2. So in order to check for the first line, I have 2/5 times x, which we've been told is 5, minus y, which we've been told is 2, is equal to 0. So let's see if that equation is the same on both sides. Well, 2/5 times 5, that's like 5 over 1. Well, this 5 and this 5 will cancel out. So what I have is 2 minus 2 equals 0. And of course, 2 minus 2 is 0. And so that satisfies this particular line. So now we have to check and see if it satisfies the next line. So I have 3 times, they tell me that x is 5 minus y, which is 2, and that's 13. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. Minus 2 is 13, and so 13 is equal to 13. And so yes, that actually satisfies our solution. So we have to answer the question, yes, 5, 2 is a solution. Okay, so you can do that anytime you're asked if a point is a solution. Then that's basically what you do is you plug that point in, you plug the x coordinates and the y coordinates into your function to see if it satisfies your function and your function is equal on both sides. But when we're talking about a system, it actually has to satisfy both functions. So it has to satisfy function 1 and it has to satisfy function 2. And if it doesn't satisfy both, then it's not a solution. If it satisfies both, then it is a solution. Okay, so even if it satisfied one equation or one line, or one function and it didn't satisfy the other, then there's no possible way that it could be a solution. Okay, now of course you want to check over your work and make sure, because you could be wrong, maybe you calculated wrong, but if you find that you've double checked everything and you calculated everything correctly and it doesn't work for both, then it's not a solution. Okay, so let's kind of see what a solution also looks like in a table. Okay, so if I plug in, gives me an x value of 3. So if I plug in an x value of 3 into my equation, what would be y? Well, first, let's go ahead and solve these equations. Okay, so the first one was 2/5 x. I want to solve for y so that I can kind of get a better idea of what I'm plugging in. So I'm going to add y to both sides over here. So plus y. Oops, yeah, this was 0 here. Sorry, I forgot to write that. Okay, so what I get is the equation that says 2/5 x is equal to y. Okay, so that was the equation 1. So this was the L1 that we were speaking of here. So that's what we're going to be doing. And if I want to rearrange that, that's y is equal to 2/5 x. Okay, and then for the second equation, I'm going to solve that one for y also. So 3x minus y is equal to 13. Well, if I do that, let's subtract 3x, let's subtract 3x. And so that gives me negative y is equal to 13 minus 3x. And so if I multiply everything by a negative and rearrange it, that's going to give me y is equal to positive 3x minus 13. And so that is L2. And so what I'm going to be doing is plugging in these points. Okay, I'm going to plug in these x values for L1 and L2 in order to get whatever the y value is for that particular line. So let's say that I plug in 3. Okay, well, if I plug in 3 for x for the first line, I'm going to get, that looks like it would be, if I plug in 3, let me just make a list. So for 3, actually I have a list here, so I'll use that one. So 2/5 times 6 times 3 would actually give me 6. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit. That would give me 6/5. So that would be like 1.2. Okay, now let's plug in 3 for the next one. So that would be 3 times 3 minus 13. So that would be 9 minus 13 would be -4. Okay, so let's continue. The next thing I'm going to plug in is 2/5 times 4. And so that would give me 8/5. And so over here, I'm also going to plug in 4. So 3 times 4 minus 13. Well, that's 12 minus 13. So that leaves me with a -1. So let's plug in 2/5. And I'm going to plug in 5 is equal to, that's going to give me, well, those will cancel. So that'll leave me with 2. And then if I plug in 3 times 5 minus 13, well, guess what? That's going to leave me with 2 also. That's 15 minus 2. So what happens is I'm looking for the place where if I plug in an x, I get the same y for both. So in both cases, y is 2. So let's check 6 to make sure that it's not a solution, even though we've already worked these out. So we have 2/5 times 6, right? So that would give me 12/5. But if I plug in 6 over here, that gives me, 18 minus 13, that would give me 5 actually. And so we can see that the only place where there is a solution is actually 5. So 5 for both equations will give me 2 for y. So if both x's are 5, if I use x for both the first line and the second line, it's going to give me the same y value of 2 and 2 for both the first line and the second line. So therefore 5, 2 is a solution, and it's the only solution on each line that will actually satisfy both lines. So it's the point that they share. So both lines share the point 5, 2. Okay, so if that makes sense, you can let that process a little bit and look at it and go back and work any of these with the videos if you need help. And that will help you actually find out and really understand what a solution is. So a solution is basically a point with coordinates that satisfy both lines. All right, I hope this has helped, and see you in the next video.